I'm Eric Naso with Newsshooter.com, and today we have a new release from Aputure. And well, I guess I could tell you a few things about it, but why bother when I have Ted right here? So Ted, go ahead and take it away.
Finally, we are releasing it. It is here. This is the 300X. So, of course, the X standing for bi-color, being able to crossfade between tungsten to daylight at the touch of a button. This is, yes, similar to the Lightstorm COB series, except this is actually not a COB. So what makes this actually special is that, in the first place, on the front here, when you actually open up this LED, most of the time when you do a bi-color LED you're normally familiar with, you have a tungsten chip and a daylight chip and usually fade between the two. And that's fine, that's great, but the problem is that when you try to use something like an optical modifier or a spotlight or even just a Fresnel, anything that you put in front of here, you're actually going to see and project those two different chips, and you're going to get kind of an uneven color here. You're going to get daylight and tungsten in one. So what we had to do here is we had the soundingly simple, but actually deceptively hard task of trying to make a single point source that can change from daylight to bicolor without actually changing the actual variation and making sure that's consistent and smooth across the entire thing. So this right here is actually a different technology than COB. This right here is actually called CSP. So unlike a lot of chips out there that'll actually use two different LEDs, or sometimes they use even like stripes and stuff like that, they'll actually try to stripe it. This is actually a single point source with color blending optics here on the front that will actually be able to change out that color. Now, this is pretty similar to the 300D Mark II in that it pulls about 350 watts of power. It is approximately about 50 to 70% the brightness of a 300D Mark II. So for a lot of Aputure users out there, that's like a 120D Mark II to a 300D Mark I. For tungsten people out there, again, you know I don't like tungsten comparisons, but if you're going to ask for one, it's going to be about brighter than a 1K, but it's going to be a little bit shy of a 2K, so it's going to be kind of somewhere in that range. Now, a couple of other features that we were actually able to add into this. Now, this does have all the benefits of the 300D Mark II. So it has a single controller box between here. This controller box can clamp to any stand using lightning clamp right here. So if I actually want to be able to dismount it, I've got this super fast clamp here. All I got to do is just snap it in, load it up into place, and it clamps into place. I've also got feet here on the back so I can rest it down however I need. And I've also got a paracord here if I want to hang it. Now, in the actual light, when I turn this on, you'll see the second wheel here. So if I want to be able to change this color temperature, and I've got one in a spotlight right over here, all I have to do is press this button, and I've actually got presets that'll change all the way from 2700 all the way to 6500 Kelvin. And I can actually change this in 50-degree Kelvin increments. So if I come over here and dim between it, I'm changing extremely, extremely smoothly. And one thing that I want to mention for 300D Mark II users is that we were actually able to do one more update in the firmware, and this is going to be coming for free to all 300D Mark II users as well. And that is when you actually do your brightness dimming. Some people, they said 1% increments isn't smooth enough. We want to go even smoother than 1%. So we were able to do it in firmware. It actually changes. It'll still say 1% increments here, but every time you change between an increment, it's actually going to change in a 0.1% increment. So when I change from 1 to 2%, it's actually going to go 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. It's going to automatically do that dimming there so that I get a super smooth curve the entire way through. Now, a couple of other things too is that on the side here, you're going to see you've got this actual carbon fiber looking design here, and this is all basically to make sure that you don't mix up your lights. But if you do mix up a 300D Mark II with 300X, this will actually automatically tell you just wrong controller box. And of course, we've got the design here built, so you shouldn't have to mix it up. This can be powered off of batteries, so V-mount batteries or gold mount batteries. This can be powered off of a single battery at half power. And of course, on the bottom here, you've also got 5-pin DMX, as well as full Sidus app control too. So I can not only power this from lighting boards, I can not only power this from our usual radio frequency remote, patch that in, but I can also pull out something like, where's my phone? Here it is. Sidus Link as well. So if I come over here, I'm going to go to my spotlight, which you can see in the background there. If I want to actually change my color temperature, all I've got to do is just adjust it here. So the entire thing changes in one go. I can change my intensity, effects. Because, of course, this is a bicolor function feature, I can actually use new effects that have been built into it, such as fire. So you can see in the back there, we now have a fire effect going on that spotlight. We have new effects such as explosion. All these have been built in to actually be able to maximize and change color temperature. So that's lightning right there, pulsing, TV. TV is one of the ones that I think has been improved a lot because of the additional color range. You can actually make slight color changes so that those effects look a little bit more realistic. And this will all be programmed in, or you can actually choose whatever color temperature you want there as well. As far as the rest of it, though, it is pretty similar to a 300D Mark II. Availability, it is available today. It is available to buy today. I know people have been waiting for it for a long time. It's finally here. As far as the price point of this as well, it's only about $100 more than a 300D Mark II, so this comes in at about $11.99. And then, yes, we're super pumped to have it out here. For a lot of people, we get asked all the time, how do I gel my lantern? How do I gel my Aputure lantern? There's a way to gel the light domes and things like that. There's a built-in gel holder. For the lantern, you finally have your solution here. We're showing it up there. That is a tungsten lantern up there because, of course, the actual device and the light engine is fine-tunable as far as the color goes. So that's really the goal here. Make an engine that's fine-tunable, that can make any color, any reproduction, any quality of light, and then be able to change it from the actual source itself. So that's about it, though. That's the 300X.
Ted, does the 300X have some new output modes?
Absolutely. So basically for this light, this is one of the problems that we've been getting asked for a lot, and something that we worked really hard on as well, because it's in the actual programming and firmware. As you know, lights these days are kind of becoming computers in a lot of ways, and what's possibly more important than just the actual physical attributes or what's inside of the actual light as far as the firmware and the software goes. So when I actually go to my output modes here, I click on the menu mode, I go here, and one of the things that you're going to see now is you're actually going to see a little menu called output mode. When I go to this, I've got two output modes. So I've got constant output mode and max output mode. Now, what's cool about this is that normally when you have a bicolor LED, again, within the range, so this is 27 all the way up to 6500 Kelvin, the middle color temperature range is generally going to be brighter. But one of the hardest things is that when you try to change color temperature, you're going to notice that your light gets brighter in the middle because it's using more of the LEDs, and then all of a sudden it gets softer and darker around the edges. So what this will do is that if I choose constant output mode, and I actually go into my regular light settings, and I change my color temperature here, this is actually going to make sure that no matter what color temperature I'm at, the output level is going to be maintained at the exact amount. So it's actually going to calculate the difference in push of output and make sure that there's no luminance change, even as you do a drastic color change. So something like a sunset or something like that's very important. Likewise, if I go over here and I go to my output modes and I click on something called max output mode, what that means is that when I go here, regardless of where I am in the color temperature spectrum, it's going to try to overclock it and push as much output as you can every step of the way. So regardless if you need max output or precision, it's not really a choice that you have to make anymore. And before, you used to have to ask manufacturers to build it one way or the other way. This way, we're able to build both of them in there, so you have both options as well, too.
The color blending optic in the front of the 300X is really interesting. Was it a challenge to develop?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I'm really excited about is that I know bicolor's been around forever, but technically speaking, this is the world's first point source LED that can use modifiers like the spotlight and the things like the Fresnel. And that's because, again, bicolor's always been around, but making one point source be able to change without just diffusion or something like that, really, really difficult thing to do. So the technology here that's being used is called CSP, and that's basically different than regular COB, which is chip on board. Chip on board basically will usually magnify and be able to illuminate multiple different packets and parts of the LED at the same time, as opposed to CSP, where it actually goes back to something that I think people are a little more familiar with, where every single diode is daylight tungsten, but right on the front of there, not only do we fine-tune it and make it incredibly fine in terms of being able to compress and be able to put all of those daylight tungsten chips together, but the actual optic that we built into here also had to be carefully designed so that every single LED blends at the perfect point. Because if you think about it, with something like a spotlight or a Fresnel, you're literally taking a point source LED that's this small, magnifying it really huge. So if there's even the smallest bit of discrepancy or something like that, you'll see it as soon as it gets blown up. So for us, it took a lot of great care, it took a lot of depth, it took a lot of knowledge of actually working the optics, not only from the optic side, but also the LED side. We had to rehaul and use, again, an entirely new technology that hasn't been used in our lights before, CSP, to be able to accomplish that effect there. So I think for a lot of you guys out there, you might even open it up and kind of see how it works. I'm not going to encourage that, but it is something that I think we're really proud of for engineers for doing.
Is this the only product that you guys are releasing at this time, or do we have some other surprises coming up?
Yes, we do. So basically, again, NAB, I'm not the first person saying this. I don't have to break anybody's heart with this, but of course NAB is not happening this year, and as kind of sad and upsetting as that is, I think it's the responsible move. So because of that, what we are doing, though, is we do have all these releases, all these things that we've been working really hard on for the past year that we've wanted to show on kind of a big stage to a lot of people. So obviously, thanks to Newsshooter for being great and actually letting us be able to show the products. We are going to be releasing one new release that we were originally planning to release from NAB once a week, and it's going to be released live. So every Wednesday at noon, there's going to be one new release coming out. There's some pretty big ones, so I'm excited to show those as well. A couple things that I think you'd expect to see from us, but then also a couple things that I think are surprises as well. So if you're interested in that, just tune in as well.
Thanks, Ted. The 300X bicolor looks really good. And the only downside is I wasn't able to see you in person this year at NAB. Hopefully, when this mess is all over, we'll all be able to hang out again soon.
Absolutely. I know, this is sad. I'm used to talking to people one-on-one and being able to show the gear, but this is the next best thing. So thanks for joining us, and thanks for doing this as well.
Well, that about covers it. The 300X looks like a really interesting light. I do have one in for review, so I'm going to start testing, and I'll give you all the information coming up in a full hands-on review. I'm Eric Naso for Newsshooter.com. Thanks for watching, and make sure to go to the site and check out all the cool stuff that we have coming out, well, in this NAB period.